Um, um, I was a kid incredibly in love with my life, in love with nature, in love with my sister, in love with God. There was plenty to love. I mean, I was a total bouncing love bunny. I also had a lot of things go wrong. It never occurred to me to be defeated. I was a kid. Okay, that's a good one. Who am I? My name is Chris Rush. You want that kind of answer? I've been a painter here for decades, and about 10 years ago, I realized that somehow I was writing a book. I bounced back and forth between here and New Jersey. I spent a long period of time as a backpacker in the Catalinas, and that was my code word for homeless. I survived by selling weed. I shopped at the food co-op. I was a skinny vegetarian. But up in the mountains, something happened. I thought I was Jesus in the desert. I was fasting. I was trying to figure out the old questions. This is one of my favorite narc photographs. This is a US agent who has busted a cactus. It's a peyote cactus, and it needed to be taken in. And the narcs always photographed pot with guns. Even though there usually were no guns involved, they had to make sure we understood the dangers. When I look at these photos I've collected, I can say it really did look like that. This is exactly what was happening. And I look back on the picture and say, yeah, we really were weird and happy, strange. I wrote this book, or I started the book, saying to myself, well, someone else has written this book. It's obvious. I wasn't alone during those wild years. I mean, someone else certainly has gotten to it before me. And I realized that no one did. There's a lot of reasons for that. You know, being a queer kid from New Jersey, born in 1956, who really liked drugs, your survival chances are a little shaky. You know, my father was wearing flowered ties and drinking J&B, you know. He didn't want to miss out. He was still young. You know, he's probably in his mid-40s when his children started to freak out. And I think it's all, you know, really interesting. You know, there's a lot you simply can't explain. Why that outfit? I don't know. I don't know at all. Oh, God. When I first came out here was in 1971. I had been on a truly harrowing road trip to get here. By the time I got to Tucson, I had just gotten out of the hospital. I had had some problems hitchhiking. I was a mess. But I got here and I still had a wallet full of money, and I was here to score weed. I was 15. In spite of all the ups and downs of being a drug dealer, trying to fall in and out of love 100 times, I found ultimately that I kept thinking of Tucson. I kept thinking of the light here. I kept thinking of like something I saw here that was truer than anything else I'd ever seen. I was originally thinking of great distance, and I was thinking of UFOs and the cities of the universe. But then I thought, oh, I was very much in Tucson, in the desert. It was all a very light-driven existence. It was incredibly sunny and unreal. And then I also thought, and I was a backpacker, and everything I owned was on my back, and I was traveling very light. I had learned as a painter that the image must transact. It must satisfy. It must have an effect. And, you know, the artist has his bag of tricks, you know. I have bright colors and contrast and shapely forms, and I have subjects I know that intrigue. And as the writer, it was the same thing. I had to write in a colorful, bold fashion because it's what I require to be interested. Once I became a true autonomous adult and moved far away from my family, I did consider my past, but for very different reasons, because I was sickened and enraged. Some of it got into my art, but mostly I annoyed my friends and was really bad company. By the time I started to write, it was a very different relationship because I was not writing out of a sense of anger or revenge. I had no scores to settle. I could see clearly all the things that had happened and was looking at them because they were fascinating and peculiar. And even when my villains came back around, I rather loved them. Two hitchhikers, probably Germany. That was very much, that was me. That's what it looked like. Mom and Dad. I wonder if he took drugs. The hippies really did predict the future. And I was one of the experimental babies who was given LSD at 12. You know, and I was told it was a brain vitamin. Perhaps it was.